My friends, there are moments in history when the world turns its eyes toward a single nation, not because of its wealth, not because of its weapons, but because of the unshakable spirit that burns within its people. Today, I want to speak to you about such a nation, a land that has stood through centuries of storms, faced sanctions, threats, and isolation, yet still rises with dignity and strength. A country whose roots reach deep into the soil of ancient civilization, whose heartbeat refuses to be silenced. This is not a message of politics. This is a message about perseverance, about a people who have been tested and tried, but not broken, about a nation that, despite the full weight of global pressure, continues to walk with pride, purpose, and principle. There is something powerful, something deeply moving about a people who refuse to surrender their identity, their sovereignty, their soul. So let us not only observe from afar, let us learn, let us draw strength from their endurance. Because the story of Iran is not just a story of one country, it is a reflection of what it means to stand firm when everything around you demands that you fall. There comes a time in every life, every generation, when the pressure to bend, to yield, to give in becomes almost unbearable. When the world seems to gather its weight against you, when the voices around you say, "You won't make it this time," and when circumstances try to corner your very soul, what do? You stand. You see, true strength isn't measured in comfort. It's not forged in ease or polished in peace. Real power is born in the fire, and when you walk through that fire and come out the other side still holding your head high, still clinging to your identity, still pressing forward with purpose, that, my friend, is unbroken spirit. Now think of a nation, one that has weathered revolutions, invasions, economic sieges, global criticism, and isolation. Yet when the dust settles, that nation still stands, still proud, still unwilling to surrender what makes it unique. That nation becomes a symbol not just for its own people, but for everyone who's ever been told they're not strong enough, smart enough, rich enough, or free enough to make it through. There's a power in refusing to bow. Not out of arrogance, but from a deep understanding of who you are. When a nation knows its worth, when its people understand the legacy they carry, when they're willing to sacrifice for something greater than themselves, that is where you find the kind of spirit no weapon can defeat, no policy can erase, no pressure can break. And perhaps you've felt it in your own life. Maybe you've faced moments when the world around you tried to crush your confidence, when the storms came and the walls of your heart began to tremble. But something inside told you not to give in. You remembered where you came from. You remembered the lessons of those who walked before you, those who prayed when there were no answers, who worked when there were no rewards, who stood tall even when everyone else was running away. That same spirit lives in you. The strength of a nation like Iran isn't just in its borders or its resources. It's in its mothers who raise sons with courage. It's in its fathers who work with their hands despite impossible odds. It's in its youth who dream boldly, even when the world tries to limit their vision. It's in the old men sitting in the marketplaces telling stories of honor, sacrifice, and faith. It's in the collective refusal to let external power dictate internal worth. There's a lesson here not just for countries but for individuals. The world may never cheer for you. It may never understand you. It may label you, mock you, or even try to erase your name from history. But when you carry that unbroken spirit, you become unstoppable, not because of what you have, but because of who you are. You become a light in the darkness, a song in the silence, a strong tower when others fall like dust. And when others see you standing, even when it doesn't make sense, even when everything says you should have given up long ago, they are inspired. Your strength becomes their encouragement. Your endurance becomes their hope. So if you're walking through your own battle today, if you feel the heat rising and the pressure building, remember this: you don't have to bow, you don't have to give in, you don't need the approval of the world to walk in purpose. The same spirit that has kept great nations standing through centuries is the same spirit that can rise within you. Lift your head, straighten your spine, plant your feet on truth and conviction. Let the world bring what it may, storms, stones, fire, or fear, and still let them find you standing, unshaken, unyielding, unbowed, because deep inside you there is a spirit that cannot be broken. And that spirit will lead you through every storm and raise you above every enemy, not by might, not by force, but by the quiet strength of knowing who you are, whose you are, and why you were made to stand. There is something sacred about deep roots. They are unseen, but they are everything. A tree may sway in the storm, its branches may break, its leaves may be stripped away by the wind. But if the roots are deep, that tree will not fall. It will stand, it will heal, and it will grow again. In life, we often face storms that threaten to shake us to the core. Loss, betrayal, pressure, hardship. Each one comes like a wind trying to uproot us. But when your foundation runs deep, you can withstand what others cannot. When your soul is anchored in truth, when your identity is shaped by something greater than trends and time, you will remain standing long after others have fallen. The same is true of a people. A civilization cannot be conquered if its roots run deep. A nation may be attacked, its economy may falter, its cities may burn, but if the heart of its people is grounded in faith, culture, honor, and memory, no force on earth can erase it. Now think about your own life. You may feel surrounded by adversity. You may feel targeted, misunderstood, or pushed aside. But the question is not how loud the storm is. The question is, how deep are your roots? Do you know who you are? Do you know where you come from? Do you understand the strength of the legacy that flows through you? Because when you do, you become unshakable. A civilization like Iran has walked through centuries of empires rising and falling. It has known glory and grief. It has seen kings come and go, foreign powers invade and retreat. But through it all, its people held fast to something deeper than politics. They held to their language, their stories, their customs, their poetry, their prayers. They passed their identity from generation to generation, not in books alone, but in spirit. And so, while kingdoms crumbled and ideologies shifted, that ancient soul survived. Because you can tear down buildings, you can redraw maps, but you cannot conquer a people who are rooted in who they are. There's a lesson here for each of us. We are living in an age where many are rootless, chasing status, money, applause, and approval. But without a foundation, all those things blow away like dust. What's left when the lights go off and the crowd goes silent? You must dig deep. You must build your life not on shallow things, but on truth, on values that time cannot corrode, on faith that circumstances cannot shake. You must pass down a legacy, not of riches, but of righteousness. Not of ease, but of endurance. Your children are watching you. They will not remember every word you say, but they will remember how you lived, how you held firm when life pushed you, how you prayed when you had nothing left but hope. And that example becomes a seed planted in their soul, one that grows and bears fruit in their time. A civilization survives not because of its weapons or wealth, but because of its wisdom, because of people who choose to remember, who choose to preserve what matters most. The elders who teach, the mothers who nurture, the fathers who lead, the youth who carry the flame forward. So in your own life, when trials come, and they will, you must return to your roots. Remember the times you overcame. Remember the faith that carried you through nights of tears. Remember the hands that held you when you were weak, and know that those memories, that strength, that spirit, it is all still within you. Let your life be like that ancient tree. Maybe you've been scarred by the past, maybe some of your branches are broken, but if your roots are deep, you are not finished, you are not forgotten, you are not defeated. Keep growing, keep standing, keep believing, because the world can take away your position, your possessions, even your plans, but it cannot take away your purpose. It cannot take away your history. It cannot uproot a soul that is grounded in truth. When you know where you come from, you will never be lost. When you know who walks with you, you will never walk alone. So let others rise and fall, let the winds howl, let the times change, but as for you, hold firm. Dig deeper, stand taller, because you are part of something greater than the moment you're in. You are rooted in eternity, and no force on earth can conquer that. There is a kind of war that cannot be won with bombs, a battle that cannot be claimed with borders, treaties, or weapons of any kind. It's a war of spirit, of soul, of truth, and my friend, that war is the one so many have tried to win, and failed, because they didn't understand what they were fighting against. You see, you can drop missiles from the sky, you can send fleets across oceans, you can tear down governments and rewrite laws, but you cannot destroy a people whose strength does not come from the things of this world. When a nation is driven by something more than power, more than position, more than pride, when it is driven by faith, conviction, and an unbreakable sense of purpose, no amount of firepower can bring it to its knees. The West has built its campaigns on force and influence, on sanctions and systems. But there are places in this world that will not bend, not because they are strong in the flesh, but because they are rooted in something eternal. They may have fewer weapons, fewer allies, fewer riches, but what they possess is far greater than gold. They have belief, they have memory, they have heart, and isn't that true in our own lives? There are battles in your heart that the enemy tries to win every single day. Not with bombs, not with armies, but with fear, with temptation, with shame. The world tries to take your peace, tries to rob your worth, tries to convince you that you are defeated before you even rise out of bed in the morning. But if you are anchored in truth, if you know the one who holds your future, if you walk in the strength that is not your own, then that war cannot be won against you either. There are nations like Iran, tested by history, scarred by conflict, targeted by pressure from every side. And yet they remain. They rise again and again, because their fight isn't just over land or politics. It's a spiritual resistance, a soul, deep refusal to lose themselves in the face of overwhelming odds. The world sees resistance and calls it rebellion, but heaven sees endurance and calls it faithfulness. And maybe you're fighting your own quiet war right now. Maybe it's not on a battlefield, but in your marriage, in your finances, in your health, in your sense of identity, and maybe everything around you says you're losing, but let me tell you this. The war the enemy cannot win is the one you refuse to surrender. Because borders shift, empires fall, but the human spirit, when aligned with truth, cannot be defeated. Iran's story is more than geopolitical drama. It's the testimony of a people who know that real power is not about dominating others. It's about standing in the face of domination and saying, "We will not bow," not because of pride, but because of principle. Not because of arrogance, but because of ancestry. Not because of hatred, but because of hope. That is the kind of spirit that inspires. That is the kind of spirit that survives. And that same spirit can live in you. It can rise in the mother who prays for her children with tears on her pillow. It can rise in the worker who shows up day after day, even when no one notices. It can rise in the young man who walks away from the easy path because he chooses what is right. It can rise in the widow who still sings even after death has visited her doorstep. That war cannot be won by the darkness, because light still shines in the hearts of those who believe. So what is your battlefield today? Where are you tempted to give up? Don't let the world tell you who you are. Don't let circumstances define your destiny. You were born for more than survival. You were created to overcome. Not with the might of man, but with the quiet, persistent courage of one who knows they are never alone. There will always be nations that seem too proud to fall, too bold to be broken, and the world will watch in frustration, trying to figure out why they endure. But we know why. Because when a people are bound together by history, when they are willing to suffer for truth, when they would rather walk through fire than sell their soul, there is no power on earth that can conquer them. And when you live that same way, when your life becomes a testimony of standing in the storm, of loving when it's hard, of believing when it hurts, that's when your enemies lose the war against you, because they may take the things around you, but they will never take what's inside you. So rise up, walk forward, don't look back. The battle may rage, but the victory is already in your soul. The war they're trying to win against your faith, your joy, your peace, it's a war they simply cannot win. There's something about struggle that reveals who you really are. It strips away the surface, the comfort, the convenience, and what's left is the core of your soul. You see, pain is not just something we go through. It's something that shapes us. It chisels our character. It hardens our resolve, and if we let it, it makes us stronger than we ever imagined. For years, there has been a nation placed under the weight of sanctions, isolation, and pressure. Some believed those restrictions would break its spirit, silence its people, and bring it to its knees, but they misunderstood something profound. They thought they were fighting flesh and blood, but what they encountered was a people with purpose. A people who knew how to endure, a people whose souls could not be crushed. Iran is not just a country with borders, it is a civilization with depth. A people whose strength is not in the luxury of life, but in the richness of the heart. And when the world closed its doors, they did not collapse. They adapted. When trade stopped, they built. When support faded, they leaned on one another. When the weight of the world pressed down, they pushed back with faith, with unity, and with an unshakable will. That same truth echoes into every life that is under pressure today. You may not be facing sanctions, but maybe you're facing rejection. Maybe the opportunities have dried up. Maybe doors have been slammed in your face. Maybe life has told you no, more times than you can count, and you've started to wonder if you're finished. You're not, because your soul is not made of glass, it's not fragile, it's not easily broken. Your soul is like steel when it's refined in the fire of affliction. The more heat you face, the stronger you become. If you don't give up, the world may try to shut you down with fear. Life may try to strip you of comfort and security. But what they don't realize is that your value isn't in the things that can be taken away. It's in the part of you that no one can touch, that quiet courage, that inner voice that whispers, keep going, that unseen hand that lifts you when you're too tired to stand. Iran's story is not one of pity, it is one of perseverance. When the lights went dim, the people didn't stop shining. They created, they studied, they prayed. They built communities of strength, not in spite of the sanctions, but because of them. Struggle didn't weaken them, it purified them. The same can be true in your own journey. That hardship you're facing right now might be the very thing that prepares you for your greatest breakthrough. That silence from heaven may be the space where you learn to hear your own calling more clearly. That empty bank account may lead you to discover that your worth is not in your wallet, but in your witness. You don't need applause to be strong. You don't need a crowd to be courageous. You don't need open doors to know that you were born to rise, because deep down inside you is a soul that cannot be crushed by this world, only refined. And when people look at your life one day, they won't talk about how easy it was. They'll talk about how you kept showing up when everything told you to stay down. They'll talk about how you remained kind when life was cruel. How you kept loving when you were hurt. How you kept building when everything around you was being torn down. Iran's people didn't wait for the world to rescue them. They turned inward and discovered what many had forgotten, that sometimes struggle is the best teacher, that pain can be holy, that when you are stripped of what you lean on, you finally learn to stand on your own 2 feet, and perhaps that is your moment right now. Maybe life has taken something away. Maybe it has placed barriers in your path. But what if those barriers are not there to block you, but to build you? Let your soul be like that land, weathered by time, but not worn out, pressed by hardship, but never destroyed. Let your trials forge you. Let the silence make you sing. Let the pressure make you pray deeper, love stronger, fight wiser, because the goal of this life is not to avoid hardship. It's to grow through it, to become someone who is not defined by what happens to them, but by how they respond, someone who chooses to rise, even when the ground beneath them is shaking. The sanctions couldn't crush that nation's soul, and the struggles in your life won't crush yours, unless you surrender. But if you hold on, if you walk forward with faith, if you trust that even your tears are not wasted, then one day you will look back and realize the fire didn't burn you, it built you. Your soul is stronger than your struggle, your purpose is greater than your pain, and your journey is not over yet. So press on, stand tall. You were not made to be defeated, you were made to endure. There's something powerful about ashes. To the world, they look like the end. They are what's left after the fire has done its work. Blackened, broken, cold, but my friend, let me tell you something about ashes. They are not the end. In the hands of God, ashes are the beginning. When something rises from the ashes, it doesn't rise weaker, it rises wiser. It doesn't come back smaller, it comes back stronger. And when a life, a soul, or even a nation is burned by adversity, yet chooses not to die in the fire, that becomes a story worth telling for generations to come. Think of a people who have walked through the heat of war, the sting of sanctions, the loneliness of isolation, and the pressure of political storms. Most would expect them to be weary, bowed, broken. But instead, they rise, not with vengeance, but with vision, not with hatred, but with honor. They rise from the ashes, not erased, but refined, not defeated, but defiant. Iran became more than a country. It became a symbol of what it looks like when adversity tries to silence a people, and instead it gives them a louder voice, when it tries to crush them, and instead it gives them stronger bones, when it tries to erase their name, and instead they write it deeper into the pages of history. And maybe today you know what it feels like to sit in the ashes. Maybe life has burned some things down in you. Maybe relationships have failed. Maybe doors have closed. Maybe dreams have gone up in smoke. And now you're left with a pile of pain, wondering if anything good can come from it. Oh, but don't you know that the greatest strength doesn't come from never being broken? It comes from being broken and rising anyway, from standing back up when everything says you should stay down, from choosing to believe again, love again, try again, even when the world says you're finished. Ashes are not a sign that you've lost. They are a sign that something old has ended, and something new is about to begin. The story of Iran isn't just about politics or power. It's about people who refuse to let adversity define them. When hardship came, they adapted. When enemies surrounded them, they turned inward, held tighter to each other, dug deeper into their roots, and what came out of the fire wasn't just survival, it was strength. It was resilience. It was defiance rooted not in rage, but in righteousness. You can be that kind of person. You can be the one who walks through the fire and doesn't lose your song. The one who buries their dreams for a season, only to watch them bloom again in a new form. The one who takes the ashes of grief, of loss, of failure, and lets them become the foundation for a better future. We are not defined by what we avoid. We are defined by what we endure. And when the world watches you stand up again, when they see the fire didn't break you, it preaches a louder sermon than words ever could. Iran's endurance tells the world that power isn't about wealth or weapons. It's about the human heart. It's about the will to live, the courage to hope, the decision to hold on when everything else is falling apart. That kind of strength doesn't come from outside. It's born in the soul, often in the darkest of nights. And maybe right now, that's where you are, somewhere between the burning and the rising. Somewhere between what you lost and what's coming next. I want you to know this. There is glory in the ashes. There is purpose in the pain. There is a new season that can rise from the wreckage of what once was, but it starts with a decision, the decision to believe again, to rebuild again, to not let the fire be the end of your story, but the refining of your spirit. Iran didn't become a symbol of defiance by accident. It became one because time and time again, when others expected collapse, the people chose courage, and that's the same choice before you now. You don't need everything to be perfect. You don't need the approval of others. You need only the will to stand, to rise, to walk forward in faith. Because fire is loud, but the soul that refuses to quit is louder. So take your ashes, hold them up. Say, this isn't the end of me. This is the soil where I will plant my next season. This is the place where my faith gets stronger. This is the day I stop mourning what was and start fighting for what can be. From the ashes of adversity, beauty can be born. From brokenness, strength. From silence, a voice. And from suffering, a testimony that says to the world, you tried to destroy me, but I am still here. And my friend, if you are still here, then it means your purpose isn't finished yet. Your defiance in the face of despair is a victory. Your willingness to keep going is a legacy in the making. So rise, not just for yourself, but for those who are watching you, for those who will find hope because you never gave up. Rise from the ashes. Let your life be a living symbol of what it means to overcome. Let your soul preach louder than any storm. Let your story become one of triumph, one forged in fire, but standing in glory. So now, rise from your ashes. Let every scar speak of strength, every tear testify of triumph. You are not what the fire tried to destroy. You are what it failed to break. Let your life declare to the world that adversity does not write the final chapter. You are still here, still standing, still pressing forward. From the ruins, build again. From the pain, love again. From the silence, speak again. Be the light that defies the darkness. For when the smoke clears and the dust settles, the soul that endures becomes the symbol that inspires generations to never give up.